YouTube viewers as well as listeners. Dewaine Dimps is still on my quest for financial freedom. I read another book. This book is called Thieves In The Temple, America Under the Federal Reserve System, written by a gentleman named Andre Eckerson. Now, before I get into this book, I would like to give some background about Mr. Eckerson. He's the first black man to write a book about macroeconomics. And I think it's important, as far as I'm concerned, in my quest for financial freedom, to have some understanding about the systematic body of knowledge surrounding the creation of money, also the policy, analysis, and the implementation of our economic system. Okay? The book is a historical perspective of the Federal Reserve System. Now, according to this book and according to the Constitution, the current Federal Reserve System we're under was started in 1913 by the Federal Reserve Act under President Woodrow Wilson. Okay? Now, since the creation of this fourth central bank, the United States, in the process, eliminated the gold standard, because at one point, this currency that we're under was backed by gold, but today it is not. And the implementation of it was during that time, from 1913 and during the Great Depression. Okay, so he also talks about how we have different economic booms and economic busts, and how it's implemented in time by the central bank. Okay. Now, it's kind of difficult to go through the whole book and explain year by year or decade by decade how the economic system works. But I would try to break it down as best as I can. Now, the important thing to me was how we're under a fiat-based currency, which means we have paper money that's not backed by anything except for the gross national product, military might, and the symbolic representation of the U.S. dollar. So in other words, our money isn't really backed by any precious metal. Okay. Now it's important that I get into, I had mentioned the fiat-based paper system that we had. So it's important for me to explain what it's about to the best of my ability. Okay, that means that we're under a system where we deal with paper money that's not backed by gold. And I explained earlier what our money is backed by. But it's important to understand that because our money is created, some would say out of thin air. But from what I understand, when you make a deposit into the bank, for example, if you deposit $1,000 into a bank, they take your $1,000, multiply it by 10, and loan $10,000 to someone else. And that person has to pay back interest on top of that $10,000 loan. That person has their payments, they make the payment. So for example, if they have to make let's say $500 payment each month plus interest, the bank will then take that $500 payment, multiply that times 10. And this is how the system appears to work. Every time a person makes a payment into the bank multiplies it by 10, make another loan to other people or to other banks. And this system works as long as people can afford to make the minimum payment. But the important thing for people to realize is that we go out and work for our money. We put in our hard fruits and labor to get this fiat-based money. But the bank simply takes the money and create more money with just a few simple keystrokes. Now the problem is when people can't afford to make the minimum payment to put money into the bank, that becomes a problem because where is the new money going to come from? And the problem with that is, most importantly, is it's not backed by any gold. So therefore, if this system collapses, what else is there to back this up? And that gets back to the point that I brought along earlier, how our money is backed by, let me say it again, military might, first and foremost, the symbolic representation, and the gross national product. Okay? And I also wanted to touch upon, it was a chapter in this book that discusses the free market ideology and how it negatively impacts us Americans. Because once this we live in a global economy, as we all know, based upon all the events that have been happening as far as the stock market and also the housing situation. We're all connected. But the problem is, in America, if you have a corporation that needs to expand and make big money so that their shareholders can get paid, it's expensive to hire an American worker. It will cut into their profit. But if you take the same job overseas to a country where the labor laws are not as strong as ours here in the United States, the company can pay the workers less money and receive bigger profit. But it will be at the expense of the American worker. So therefore, what happens with the American worker? That person will have a hard time finding a job. So as the unemployment rate rises, inflation decreases. That's a good thing if you're a consumer, but there probably won't be enough people to consume. Or you may create a situation where you could eliminate the middle class. Will only be rich people and poor people. And there won't be any workers in between because all of the work may be shipped overseas. It's possible. It's not happening right now, but there is a possibility under this monetary system that can happen. Okay? So in summary, I would like to thank Mr. Everson for writing this book. It's a very good read. There's so much information in this book that it was difficult for me to try to present this book to you, but I did the best that I could. Because to me, this book is sort of similar to the anti-drug campaigns where they say marijuana is a gateway drug. Well, I believe this book is a gateway for individuals to read this book, but it also leads you to read other books so that we can have some type of understanding of macroeconomics. Dewaine Dimps, go on a quest for financial freedom. 2 businesses, Dad's vending services. You got what you need, yes indeed, as well as Dad's hospital. Don't deal with wimps, call them. And this book has led me to read other books, so I'll be back with some other books that this book has led me to read. And I appreciate you doing it. Thank you.